Hey guys, so something I've seen in a lot of comments on atheist videos as well as a few of my own is what proof is there against the existence of God? Not relating to the Bible being incorrect, because obviously we've proven that the Bible is a bullshit book and that you can't listen to it. Some people still are brainwashed enough to do it, but what's the proof that the God in the Bible, or just a God, does not exist? There is none. I'll admit it. There is no proof that God doesn't exist. Why? Because you can't prove a negative. You just can't. It's impossible to prove that God doesn't exist. Is that evidence that God does exist? No. It's not. It's not close. It's the same amount of evidence that the flying spaghetti monster exists, that unicorns exist. You can't prove a negative. You can't. It's impossible. And so, because of that, the way logic works in an argument, there is a claim, a positive claim and a negative claim. Positive claim, God exists. Negative claim, God does not exist. The positive claim can be proven. The negative claim cannot. Because of that, the way logic works, for logic and science to actually make sense, the positive argument holds the burden of proof. The positive argument, the ones who say God exists, hold the burden of proof to prove that God exists to everyone. In the pretty long time that Christianity has been around, no one has succeeded in providing even the smallest bit of proof of God's existence. Purely speculation about a couple things. For example, the people who say, well, I have seen God, I have felt God, God has spoken to me. No, that's not proof. That even if he did exist, that is still not proof. That's a personal experience that no one else can share. People can't feel that feeling that you got. It just doesn't exist. I have never felt God. I'm 19 years old, and I can safely say I've never felt God, I've never seen God, and I've never heard God. So what you just claimed is not evidence whatsoever for the positive claim. It's not. So what else do you got? Well, there isn't anything. There's a lot of pretty bold claims made by Christians about proof for God, and none of them are true. That none of them come close to being actual proof. None of them prove anything. None of them even bring the slightest bit of doubt in my mind. None. Now, the kind of atheist I am, the way when I believe or follow something, for example, I'm an atheist, so I strongly believe that no gods exist. That is my belief. I also follow evolution. I know that evolution is fact. I proved that in my last video. But for me, with any of these arguments, I just need one piece of true evidence against it for me to believe that. Evolution, if you find one single fossil, out of place, and you have decimated evolution, you've decimated. I would no longer believe in it. If there was an actual piece of evidence, legitimate evidence, that proved that evolution is wrong or is wrong about something, I'm done. I would move on to bigger and better things. Would I believe in God? Fuck no. Because you still can't prove that God exists. There is no proof. But the same thing goes for God. I'm an atheist, and I'm strong in my beliefs. I've been an atheist for years. And so I've done my research, and I know very strongly why I'm an atheist. And all it would take is one piece of solid evidence proving that God exists. That's all it would take. If you had that, if you honestly had that, and it was a legitimate piece of evidence, I would believe in God. Would I follow and worship that God? Not a chance. But that's a whole different story with how God is really horrible if he exists. But that's not what I'm talking about here. But I just need one piece of proof. This is how it is for most atheists. A lot of atheists agree in that if it turns out a God exists, we'd believe in them, but we would not worship or follow that God because that God is obviously not a good God. I mean, with some of the things they do. But one piece of evidence, literally one piece of evidence, Christians, Islam, Muslims, Jews, Buddhists, whatever. One piece of evidence proving your side is all it takes. But it's such a hard thing to do because what Christians see as evidence is not evidence. For one, you cannot use the Bible. The Bible is just as much proof that God exists as comic books are that Spider-Man exists. You cannot use the Bible as proof. It literally does not work to use the Bible as proof. Saying you just have to have faith, once again, is not proof because that's literally saying there is no evidence against no evidence for your position, which is horrible when you're talking to an atheist. Atheists need evidence. That's why we're atheists, is because there is no evidence supporting your claim. Saying that you have seen, felt, or heard God is complete bullshit because the brain is able to muster up incredible things. And it's easily explainable as to why you heard, saw, or felt God. Easily explainable by science. Just ask any biologist or I can't remember what it's called, the type of scientist that studies the human brain. If you ask any of them to explain it, they will easily be able to explain why you felt the way you felt, and it wasn't because some omnipotent being is beaming down this knowledge into your head or speaking to you and only you. It's because your brain is able to conjure up these things through I don't know the processes because I don't know that much about the human brain, but just simply ask someone like that. There's probably videos about it, about why you felt or heard or saw God. And there's a lot of other arguments. Well, number 4, a big one is the lack of proof against God is not evidence that God exists, which I already mentioned. But this is something I've seen way too much of. People saying that because I cannot give you a piece of evidence that proves that God does not exist means that he exists is not an argument whatsoever. I don't believe in God because there is no evidence supporting him. Then people would say, well, there's no evidence against him either. Well, I would disagree with you on that because I believe that since there is no proof following or supporting the positive statement, that is pretty good evidence that it's false. But even more so, because the claim of this being is such a huge claim, it needs evidence for me to be able to support it. It needs, it's a huge positive claim. You're claiming something astronomical because, I mean, if it was a small claim, like if I made a small positive claim with no evidence to one of my friends or my girlfriend, let's say my girlfriend, she would believe me because it's a small claim. I claim to her that, I saw a biker fall while walking to her dorm, but I have no evidence of it. She would believe me. She'd be like, oh, wow, that sucks. Were they hurt? That's it. I didn't provide any evidence. I wouldn't be able to provide any evidence because there is no evidence that would support that because it was an event that happened that, I mean, I guess I could, try to find one of the other people who happened to see it, but that would be really hard to do. So, I wouldn't need to provide any evidence and she would believe me. But with a claim in a God, an omnipotent, omniscient, super powerful being that supersedes time and space and existed before everything else and has no creator, and the horribly bad things he does. Oh yeah, you need evidence, especially for me. Any Christians who make videos who are trying to convince atheists that Christianity is the right thing to do, Stay away from what I mentioned, and if you're able to find some real evidence, awesome. Let us know, because we're dying to hear it. I'm not against becoming or against believing in God. I'm against actually following and worshiping such a piece of shit, but I'm not against the idea of believing in God, and so I would be willing to if you're able to provide that evidence. But that's something a lot of you guys are not able to do, or none of you guys are able to do. I've never seen it. That's why there's so many atheists, and that's why the atheist movement or group is growing rapidly, is because more and more people are realizing, hey, you know, they're right. There is no evidence for God. Maybe I should rethink some things. I mean, clearly the Bible is wrong. We've proven that numerous times. I mean, there are some small factual things about it, but for the most part, it's wrong. And then all you have left is the idea of a real God, and there is no evidence for it. And so people, you know, start to actually become logical in their thinking. Atheism is logical. Christianity is not. Peace out, guys. Have a nice day.